Mom, can we go to the bargain store now? After the shoe store, dweeb. Shoes first. Have you got your $5? Yeah, I do. I can get either 5 $1 toys, or 2 $2 toys and 1 $1 toy, or 1 $3 toy. What is that? Well, hi there, kid. This is a Nintendo. It's the hottest video game system in Japan, and now it's in Canada, and you can buy one. Wow. What's that game? I see you've noticed Super Mario Brothers. In this game, you can explore the Mushroom Kingdom and jump on little monsters to squish them, and you can get a flower that lets you shoot fireballs, and you need to save the princess. Wow. Mario. Is it $5? No, of course not. It's $200. Can we get it, Bob? Oh, no, dweeb. You need shoes for school, and we can barely afford those. Yeah, well, that's okay, kid. Maybe Santa will get you a Nintendo. Would you like to try Super Mario Brothers? Yes! Dweeb, come on, you've been playing that for ages. We need to get you some shoes. The mall's gonna close soon. Dweeb? Dweeb? Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. If you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that I have a bit of a thing for the aesthetics of the original Nintendo, the NES. I grew up with the NES. It was my first video game that I ever played, and it was the star of my life for a long time. The Game Boy came along shortly after, and I eventually got that, and that duo, the Game Boy and the NES, were just such an important part of my life. I dare say that if it weren't for the NES and Game Boy, I wouldn't be here today, talking about retro games and flapping my hands like a dork in front of a camera. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. The Game Boy and the NES shared something in common, the visual aesthetic. They really feel like time capsules. The NES and Game Boy gray and beige with little hints of that iconic muted subdued red hue that stands out against the grayscale casing evokes a timeless quality that defined a generation of gaming. And the aesthetics of those products have been appropriated to this day as a staple of retroness itself. You've probably noticed that my love of the retro Nintendo vibe has permeated all of my retro tech choices. I have retro-themed vertical handhelds that feel like Game Boys, horizontal handhelds, mini retro consoles, and even my entire DOS computer setup is modeled after the old Nintendo vibe, right down to the keyboard and the mouse and the joystick. I just love when my doodads that play retro games feel retro. One thing that I used to review all the time, but I haven't in a while, is retro emulation consoles. These things are basically Android boxes that have emulation front end set up, and they come loaded with games all set up and ready to rock. My favorite is the Super Console Cube X3, mostly because it looks like a little Nintendo. It's been my main retro emulation console, but it didn't really feel quite right. So I wanted to make my own retro console, and I figured it was finally time to check out one of those Raspberry Pi things that I'd heard so much about. And obviously I had to make it look like a little Nintendo. This was just a little project that I did for the heck of it. More just to see what a Raspberry Pi is about, and I didn't even intend to make a video about it, but once I made this, I fell in love with this thing. I have so many ways to play retro games, but I've been playing so much on this thing. Probably more than any other device that I have right now. It's so fun and it works so well, but most importantly, it's got the retro vibe that I always wanted. And today I'm gonna show it to you, show you how it works, show you how I made it, play some games on it, and of course, just gush about retro games like the old man I am. Speaking of which, back in my day... Is that all you bought for groceries? How is this supposed to last a whole week? Get off my back already. I bet you had enough money to buy beer and smokes though. Yeah, so what? So what? 1925, 1950, 1960, 1970, 1975, 1976, 1977. Honey, listen, I know you really want that video game thing. It's called Mario, Mom. Yeah, I know you really want Mario, but oh, dweeb. $200 is a lot of money. Yeah, I know, but maybe if I keep doing jobs and I save enough, I'll be able to buy Mario myself. Yeah, well, I just wanted to tell you that I've seen how hard you've been working and saving, and I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you, dweeb. Mario could shoot fireballs when he eats a fire flower. Oh, neat. First, let's talk about how I made it. I'll have links to all of these components in the doodad below if you want to pick this stuff up and build one of these for yourself. So this thing is powered by the Raspberry Pi 5. This is the 8 gigabytes of RAM model, but you're totally fine with the 4 gigabytes of RAM version, depending on which systems that you wanted to emulate, I guess. This is probably more power than I needed here, but I wanted to tinker with a Pi 5, so this is what I went with. Then I needed a case. This is the case that I chose, the Geek Pi case. It's super affordable. It was only like 15 bucks and it came with the case itself and a heatsink for the Pi and a case fan for ventilation. It also came in this cool box that looks like a little NES. This box has been sitting on my shelf just as a decoration. It looks so good. And then I needed an SD card. I just went for my favorite Brenda card, Silicon Power. This is actually just a 128 gigabyte card. I don't need a ton of storage on this setup. For me, everything up to PS1 and N64 is what I'm here for, so 128 gigabytes is totally fine. I have this plugged into my Commodore 1702 CRT monitor, which I'll show you in a bit, and I only wanted stuff that makes sense to play on this monitor, which is the lower end stuff, obviously. So no need for millions of gigabytes of storage or anything. And I needed a power supply, so I bought the Geek Pi power supply, which is just a 27 watt USB-C power supply. At first, I was intending to make this a wired system, so I got these USB NES controllers, and that was actually really neat. It certainly did feel authentic. And in the beginning, I just played the 2-button retro systems like Atari and NES, Game Boy Color, Master System, and Game Gear. But eventually, I wanted to branch out, and also I wanted just some better controllers. So I went for a set of 2 of the wireless Bluetooth 8-bit DOE SN30 Pro controllers. I freaking love this controller. It's definitely my favorite retro controller for retro games. I also have this 8-bit DOE arcade stick, and when I'm feeling the mood is right for some joystick gaming, I can plug this in. Obviously great for arcade games, but I even like this thing for games that weren't designed for it in any way. Playing Wipeout 3 on PS1 with a joystick is just one of the beautiful things gifted to us by the magic of modern emulation. And then I'm using this HDMI to S-video converter. This is how I'm getting the display onto my CRT. It works great, it looks amazing. There is zero latency hit that I can notice, and it's cheap. It's just like 40 bucks for this thing. Although you'll only need something like this if you're going with a CRT. If you're using a modern display with HDMI, you don't need anything. Actually, that's a lie. You do need a micro HDMI dongle to get the video from the Raspberry Pi. These are super cheap though. When it comes time to put it all together, it's actually ridiculously simple. The case has instructions, but it really just pop the heatsink on there, pop it in the case, connect up the fans, and that's it. It's good to go, more or less. And even the operating system is crazy simple. You can install Batocera just by flashing it to an SD card and then popping that in your device to run the setup, and then it just works. It was actually that easy. If you've ever used an emulation station device before, you'll have no problem setting it up here. You can connect to Wi-Fi to copy stuff from your computer or scrape your box art right there on the device. I can make a tutorial if you really want me to. Let me know in the comments, but honestly, it's so easy. You could just follow the instructions on the website. It's crazy simple. Oh, by the way, I realized that the footage that you're seeing of this screen kinda sucks. Filming this screen is hard. My camera hates it. So just be aware that in real life it looks perfect, even if the video that you're seeing is all weird looking. Okay, Dad, I moved all the wood from the shed to the garage. Oh, really? Wow, I didn't think you'd actually finish. Good job, son. Thanks, Dad. So, you said you'd oh, right, yeah, okay, here you go. $1 as promised. Thanks, Dad. Do you have any other jobs I could do? Not unless you want to go up on the roof and clean the gutters for another $1. I can do that. Oh, really? No, your mom probably wouldn't want you doing that. I'll try to think of another job for you to do. Oh, okay. Hey, Dad, where's the ladder? Side of the garage, buddy. Okay, bye. Hey, where's Dweeb? I don't know. Outside playing with the ladder or something. The what? So let me give you the grand tour. Here is the thing planted in its home in my cozy retro game corner. I made a video where I give you a tour of this setup. Check out the link in the doodad below if you want to see what this whole setup is about. I have it on top of my actual NES so that some of the retro vibes will radiate up and permeate the Raspberry Pi. And honestly, why? Why would I ever play an NES game on original hardware when I have the magic of emulation? I know some retro game nerds will probably throw me into an active volcano for saying that, so we can all look forward to that. But for me, emulation is magic. That's all there is to it. Right, Stubbs?
I mean, come on. Emulation is magic.
See, Stubbs agrees. Like I said, I have this connected to my Commodore 1702 monitor with the HDMI to sRGB adapter. I'm using this custom theme that I made. It's just a modification of some theme with my flowery background to match my retro style PC beside it. I chose this wallpaper because it reminds me of the wallpaper in my house when I was a kid. I have all of the classic stuff on here, all the 8-bit and 16-bit stuff, and also N64 and PS1. Like I said, this is for retro gaming. The really retro stuff. Just those systems that I want to see those crunchy pixels on an authentic CRT. I have zero intention to play high-end stuff on this screen, so I've maxed out this build at PS1 era. If I want to play like Dreamcast or GameCube, I'll be playing that on a different setup. It's super easy to access the storage from your PC. You can just connect to the Raspberry Pi from a PC on your network right in Windows. Just type //Batocera in the address bar and you'll be able to open the files on the device right there. You can copy over games and the game lists from your other emulation station doodad. I added my lists with all my hidden gems favorited from my main retro handheld, and it's so freaking quick and easy to do this. This is why I love emulation station devices. They're all compatible with each other. One task that I approached with the love and attention of a Renaissance sculptor carving the delicate wiener of a cherub is how I configured each system. The 1702 monitor is 320 by 240 resolution, but it accepts a 480i signal. And if you set up each system just right, you can get it looking freaking crisp, man. I have the Raspberry Pi set to display at 640 by 480, but because of the HDMI converter, you need to manually adjust the system so that they're not cut off at the edges. And each emulated system is slightly different. I went through and set custom scaling for each system so that the system's screen lines up exactly pixel for pixel with the edge of the monitor's display area. I have the system set to automatically save and load the state, so I can jump in and out of games and just pick up right where I left off. Batocera is just so freaking quick and snappy. I leave the Raspberry Pi on, I don't bother turning it off because it runs cool and quiet, and if it ever dies, it's cheap enough to just replace the main board, so whatever, it's fine. I love that I can just turn on the display and within about 5 seconds be playing my game right where I left off. This has made it so that I actually play more retro games. I love playing NES on here, obviously. That was my first game system and I have a ton of memories there, and it looks like a little Nintendo, obviously. The music of Dragon Warrior coming out of this monitor instantly unlocks nostalgia for me. I love arcade games because they're perfect for when I need a quick little pick-me-up. I love SNES and Sega Genesis games for when I want to experience some of the best retro pixel art and sound from the golden era of 16-bit gaming. I even love Game Boy and Game Boy Color on here because those games have just a simple charm to them, and playing them on a CRT is kind of a novel way to enjoy them. I like PS1 and N64 because sometimes I just want to play something with a more graphically immersive experience. And even Atari. There's just something about playing super old retro stuff on this super retro monitor. It just feels right, you know? Yeah, you do. It's a good thing turtles like apples. We got lots of apples. I guess one apple is like a huge amount of food for you though, huh? That'd be like me eating an apple the size of our car. You what? You can't be serious. Apples are way better than bananas, right? No, it's too expensive. Yes, it is. Oh my God, Brenda! Mom has always tried to talk me into eating bananas because they're cheap, but I like apples way better. I don't mind sharing with you though, Donnie. Dweeb, Aunt Brenda wants to talk to you. Okay, Bob. I've been a gamer my whole life, and games have been with me my whole life. We didn't have much money when I was growing up, but my mom knew how important games were to me, and she scrimped and saved to give me the gift of games. And it's because of her and because of games that I'm here before you today, sharing my love of the hobby with you. It's also probably the reason that I still live in Mom's basement, but that's not important. What's important is that games have been with me through thick and thin. But then when I became a grown-up, something terrible happened. Games sort of lost their magic. When I had real adult things to deal with, like my own financial struggles and trying to make it in the world, everything just costed so much and I didn't know how to deal with any of it, and I just felt like the weight of the world rested on my shoulders and that I had to suck it up and act like a man of steel because that's what I thought men needed to do. When life got too hard to deal with and I was suffering in silence, in the past I would always turn to games as an escape. But then as an adult, all of a sudden they just kind of stopped working. I'd sit down to play a game and stare at the list of games knowing that there are some great games there that I would love to play, but I just couldn't bring myself to start one up. I've talked before about midlife crises, how lots of us turn to various things when we feel like we've lost the plot and need to recapture some of the energy from youth. Some people will take up extreme sports, or go to the gym, or buy a fancy car without a roof for some reason, but it wasn't really like that for me. For me, my crisis was when I realized that I could no longer escape into a game and ignore my stresses because they were just too much to ignore. Like a squirrel eating nuts on top of my head, and the shells from the nuts are falling all over my face and into my drink. Just like that. For my midlife crisis, what brought me comfort was letting myself feel like a kid again. Forgiving myself for being a basket case about every little problem that came along, and just letting myself approach life with the same childlike wonder that I had when I was a little dweeb. So many of my life's moments are remembered in relation to the games that I was playing at the time. Sort of like how a smell of pine trees can remind you of Christmas with your family. Or the taste of rosemary can remind you of your grandma's terrible pot pie that had way too much rosemary. This is why retro games are important. Yeah, they can remind you of the good old days, and the games themselves are still fun, but more importantly, they can help you feel like a kid, I guess. Back when my problems were way smaller, way easier to deal with, and when games were my companion through the journey of life. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's freaking powerful, man. Because I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how many mutual funds or 401ks or cars without roofs you have. We're all still kids deep down. When something goes wrong, we all want to throw a little tantrum, like when you broke your favorite crayon. When you want to feel strong, we tell ourselves that nothing can hurt us, like when we used to psych ourselves up as the schoolyard bully approached. When someone in our lives is unfair to us, we feel hurt and betrayed, like when we got blamed for something that we didn't do. The little kid we were is still there, still with us, still confused and afraid about all the things they can't control, but at the same time, still awestruck at the magic of a good story like Chrono Trigger, or the sheer pride that we get when we conquer a tough challenge like the water dam in Ninja Turtles. We just need to let that little kid take the wheel more often. And that's why I wanted to show you my Raspberry Pi emulation console that I made, because it makes me happy and I like that. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Oh, I bet I know what it is. It's muffins. It's gotta be muffins. Last time Aunt Brenda had these double chocolate muffins, a whole plate of them, remember? It's gotta be muffins, Mom. Stop guessing, dweeb. You'll spoil the surprise if you guess it. You can't spoil muffins, Mom. Well, just be polite, okay? Dweeb, get over here, my best buddy. Aunt Brenda, Mom said you had a surprise for me, and I said I know what it is. Dweeb, it's muffins, right? Chocolate muffins, like last time? Yeah, I have some muffins for you, little guy. See, Mom, I knew it. Muffins. They're on the coffee table in the living room. Why don't you go and get them? Okay. Thank you. It's been hard for us. Thanks. Yeah, I know. Muffins, 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 muffins.